Hello, my name is Margaret Anderson, and today I will be doing a review of the free math software GeoGebra. This software has many uses in multiple platforms, but today we're going to be looking at the basic setup of GeoGebra Classic. So when you first open GeoGebra Classic, you can see that I have a grid with axes on the screen to the right and an input calculator to the left. So I'm going to start with placing points on my grid. So I can place points anywhere I would like. I am going to place them at specific points, and as you can see, when I place these points, the coordinates show up in the text box or in the input box on the left. So the point function can be used to do a lot more than just do points on the grid. You can put points on objects, attach and detach a point from an object. You can find intersections, midpoints or centers, complex numbers, extremums, and roots of different functions. So from here, I'm going to use the line function. So you can create a regular line that goes through 2 points. You could create a line segment that goes from one point to another point. You could do rays, polygons, vector from a point, all these different options. As you can see, every time I input a new function, it will show up in the input box. So you can see that the C point was on the x-axis, the D point is on the y-axis, and then it gives you the length of segment CD. So from here, I'm going to show the next feature, which is another form of lines, but it is a little different. So this one, you can create perpendicular lines. So I'm going to create a point somewhere on the grid. And from here, I can select perpendicular line. And you can see in the text box below that it says select a point and perpendicular line. So I'm going to select a line and the point I want it to be attached to. And as you can see, it looks pretty perpendicular, and we can use the measure feature to measure if this is indeed a 90-degree angle. First, what I have to do is place a point right here where those two lines intersect. But now I can do the measure of that, and as you can see, it is 90 degrees, as it'll show up right there, as well as it shows up in the input box. So as well as perpendicular lines, I can also create parallel lines, and as you can see, it says select a point and a parallel line. So I'm going to create a point in space, say right here. I'm going to go to my next feature to do the select a parallel line. So I'm going to select a point and the line that I would like to create a point that's parallel to, and you can see the line is parallel here. You can also create angle bisectors, and we're going to look at tangents in a little bit once we get to the circle function. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to clean up the screen a little bit, and I can do this by going over to this box right here. This is just kind of a move box. You can move graphics, you can zoom in and out, show or hide objects, label objects, but you can also delete. So once I have delete up, anything that I click, it will go ahead and delete. So now this next function I'm going to go over is the shape function. So it can create polygons of multiple different types. So I'm going to go ahead and click that one. And again, so it will create whatever shape I would like. I can do as many vertices, and once I'm ready for it to be closed, I just click on the first point again, and it will go ahead and create the shape for me. So as you can see, it plotted each point that I placed, and then it shows the length of each segment that was created within the polygon. So I can also create a couple different things. So I can create a regular polygon, and I can do this by clicking, and it will ask how many vertices I want. So it'll create whatever regular shaped polygon I want. So if I say I want 4 vertices, it's going to create a perfect square for me. And that would be a perfect square with 90-degree angles and parallel lines, all of it. I could also do a rigid polygon or a vector polygon. So I'm going to go ahead and use that delete graphic and delete the function, the polygon. I'm going to delete all the points. So now I'm going to use a circle function. So this circle function, you can create a couple different types of circles. You can create a circle through a point. You would drag until the size you want it to be, and then you drop it. This also gives you the equation of that circle with the radius as well, the radius measure. So from here, you could also create, I'm going to go ahead and delete that because we're going to create another circle. You could also create a center, a circle with a center radius. So I could say I want a radius of 10, and it will create a circle of radius 10 from that center point. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. So you also have this feature, create ellipse, can find hyperbolas, parabolas. You can create a conic through 5 points. So this one I'm going to consider the measure feature. So I'm going to go ahead and draw some lines. So they can be lines pretty much anywhere. So one thing that this can do, if I have 2 lines drawn, I can find the intersection. So I can click on both of these lines and find the intersection of these points. Let me try that again. Oh, okay, so make sure you always click the function and then click each of the lines that you want to find the intersection of. So it created the intersection point E. So now I can go in here to angle and find the angle measure, and it will show up there as well as in the box. I could also create an angle with any given size. So if I wanted to create an angle, I would tell it how much of an angle I want. So we're going to say 45 degrees. And so this will always be a 45-degree angle no matter how much I move it. So it is not attached to a line per se, but it is always there. So I could also find the distance of anything. I could find the area of a shape. I could find the slope, create lists. You can find out if there's a relation between 2 lines. There's a function inspector. This next box is a box with a couple of different things in it. So it has slider options, text box. You can include images, an input box, things like that. So now that I have gone through some of the basics of this, there is so much more to GeoGebra. There is 3D, there's a plethora of things which you can see when you click on this. When you click on that, you can see all the different resources and all the different things that GeoGebra can do. But we are just going to look at the basics today because there's not quite time to go through everything that GeoGebra can do. So now that we've played for a little bit, I'm going to show you one of the possible uses for this. So I had previously found an activity. GeoGebra has many different activities that you can search for. So I found one, and it was graphing the line. So when you open it, you get to this screen. As you can see, there is a line, a linear function, y equals x minus 1. So the instructions are to drag points A and B so that the line matches the equation. So if you can tell, you see that the y-intercept would be -1. So we're going to move B down to -1, and the slope is 1. So we can move the slope to be 1. And so when you get it correct, it says you did it, and then you can move on. So you would then get a new line. You could do as many lines as you want. There's so many options with this activity. So this is just one option of the uses of GeoGebra. It's an excellent software, and this would be a good show of using it for speed and accuracy as well as productivity. Students are able to graph way more and way quicker than if they had to do it by pencil and paper. So it's going to get the students engaged and excited to be able to use the technology, and then they're also learning and doing things a lot more efficiently with the technology. So this is just one of the many uses of this free math software. The options are truly nearly endless with GeoGebra.